During the day, in a large tall skyscraper, a man climbed the stairs and breathed tiredly. He was so tired of going up that he thought he was going to die, asking why they didn't warn him that the elevator wasn't working. It was already the 28th floor. He thought that he would not have accepted the order if he had known about it. At that moment, he called the intercom, saying that it was a delivery. The girl who opened the door finally spoke, asking him how long can we wait. The man looked at her in amazement, sweating, and asked what. She furiously snatched the package from him, saying that this restaurant was across the street from here, and she was not going to pay for delivery when he was digging around so much. The man tried to explain to the girl that her elevator was not working, but she just said angrily, "Is he kidding?" She said that the food was already cold, and she knew it. Delivery has been haphazard lately. The man, losing his temper, screamed furiously, "Then why doesn't she lift her fat body from the sofa and go get food herself?" After that, he suddenly came to his senses and shyly apologized to the woman, telling himself to take a deep breath. If she complains about him, they will take away his right to accept orders a few days in advance, asking himself what else does he have left. It is his own fault, because he is very poor. Thinking about this, he was sitting on his scooter when he suddenly saw something and was surprised. Turning his head, he saw something strange and thought again, the gate. In front of him was a huge round substance of blue color, a gate. Several years ago, such gates began to open all over the world. These gates lead to dungeons infested with monsters, a threat that cannot be resisted by human efforts, and then the gods, whom they call mythical, chose several representatives of the human race and endowed them with incredible power. These chosen ones have taken upon themselves the responsibility of fighting the monsters, and these chosen ones are called hunters by people all over the world. The man thought upset. Well, now it will take him forever to get around this. For simple people like him, all this otherworldly topic was nothing more than an eternal headache. Suddenly, someone called him, and when he picked up the phone, the person shouted Hajun. He asked him what he said to the client. The man said that he just got a call from a restaurant and they canceled their services in favor of another delivery company, all because he was rude to the customer. He said that he already had enough problems, and Hajun thought about the restaurant. He worriedly thought about that, but the person on the phone told him that he was now banned from orders for a week, asking if he understood. Hajun said in fear, "But boss." The caller hung up after sending him a message about the buyer's comments about their work, which attached a photo of food in the toilet and wrote that he lives across the street from this restaurant and the delivery took more than half an hour. The food arrived cold and all the other snacks were soggy, so I had to send it all into the toilet. Hajun angrily decided that he would now explain everything to the boss, but suddenly he screamed, holding his head in his hands. He realized that next week he needed to pay rent and he would have to work as a mover. He asked why the mythical ones didn't choose him and give him a gift like these hunters. If he were a hunter, he would now be living luxuriously and comfortably. With these thoughts, he decided that he would go home, when suddenly he heard some sound and wondered in surprise where the sound of the harp was coming from. At that moment, he received a message on his phone that he had a new order for delivery. Hajun looked at it in surprise and thought, "What is this?" He's never seen an app like this. What kind of notification is this? The notification said that he had a new order for delivery. Suddenly, at that moment, a bright pink color began to come from the phone. The light enveloped Hajun and suddenly, he closed his eyes, then opened them and found himself in a very strange place. There were pink clouds around him, and in front of him was a huge pink castle with flying unicorns. Hajun was near the gate, still sitting on his scooter and looking at it in amazement, wondering where he was. Is this a dream, or was it chosen by the gods? After crying, he thought that he could finally get out of the slums and no longer work as a courier. Suddenly, he again received a message that he had a new delivery order. Picking up the phone, Hajun saw that one bottle of nectar had been ordered and a route had been set. He thought in surprise, this is a delivery app. He couldn't understand what kind of nectar it was and what he needed to deliver, but he thought, maybe he can take it and see. Clicking accept, a large pink gate opened in front of him, and he rode his scooter through it. In front of him was a huge, luxurious pink castle. According to the map, this is here. Hajun thought incredibly, this is the abode of the gods. He looked around in surprise and, looking ahead, thought, wow, should he pick up the order here? knocking on the huge pink gate. He thought if he met someone from the mythical, he might have a chance to become a hunter. On the other side of the door, a man asked him who was there. A beautiful girl with long blonde hair and a long dress opened the door for him. The man greeted her in front of her, trying to explain why he came. But the girl exclaimed, "He's a man. What does a mortal do on Olympus?" She told him to explain himself now, asking how he could get here. Hajun showed her the phone with the delivery application, saying that he himself would like to know. He had a strange application and order for it. The girl said thoughtfully, "Delivery app?" Immediately she exclaimed, "This fool Hermes." She told him to wait a little. Usually people shouldn't touch such things. At that moment, she handed him a flask with something like a flame inside, telling him to take it. Apparently her brother would make a scandal if he didn't get it to him on time, so she asked him to bring it as quickly as possible and even don't think about uncorking and drinking, asking, "Okay?" The girl told him not to drink a single drop, and Hajun said okay in surprise, and the girl gestured to him that she was watching him and abruptly slammed the door. Ha-young stood amazed and thought, what is going on? He thought that he would no longer be a courier, but even from the gods he receives suspicion and warnings not to touch their food. Looking at the flask, he thought that it just looked like apple juice, asking himself if he could just throw it away. Walking towards the motorcycle, Ha-jun thought that the girl told him that this needed to be delivered to her brother, so he is also God. He decided that if so, then maybe he would agree to become his heavenly patron, and putting on the helmet, he told himself that this was the last delivery in his life. Ha-jun drove along a smoking road with lava visible in the cracks. The app showed him that he was approaching his goal, and he realized that it seemed he would arrive soon. He arrived at a large house standing next to the lava. Ha-jun shouted that the delivery had arrived, thinking to himself how many flights had he covered today. Entering the house, he realized that it was very hot here, like a sauna, thinking where did this heat come from? At that moment I saw a man hammering something with a huge hammer next to a large stove. Turning around, the plump man asked who was there. Ha-young, frightened, told him not to think that he was some kind of thief and had a delivery to him. Ha-jun fearfully backed away from him while the man approached him, holding a huge sword in his hands, and then, looking at him, joyfully said it must have been sent by his sister. Hearing this, Ha-jun thought in surprise, are they brother and sister? But they are completely different, maybe not related. The man said thoughtfully, looking at Ha-jun, that only he was not Hermes, asking him, he, a mortal, how did he get here? The man was shocked and pointed his red-hot sword at Ha-jun, when suddenly the frightened man said, he must wait, because his sister asked him to deliver this bottle as soon as possible, after which the man exclaimed, oh. Taking the flask in his hands, the man asked him in surprise, did he really give him everything and never take a sip? He answered him, well, naturally, he's not some petty thief who repels other people's orders, and looking at the man, he told him to quickly take it. He laughed very loudly, holding his stomach, and Ha-jun could not understand what was happening. The man said let him just look at himself, good fellow. He said that one sip of nectar would make him a god. It's hard to believe that he was not at all tempted. Ha-jun was shocked by what he heard. I think, wait, he's saying that this bottle that resembles apple juice can make him a god? Finally, in his hands is something that will help him say goodbye to the life of a delivery man forever. Thinking about this, he looked at the flask, but the man snatched it from Ha-jun's hands, smiling, after which he, in surprise, extended his hand to him. Embarrassed, he wanted to ask to take at least one sip, but at that moment the man drank it all, after catching his breath and saying that he liked to drink it in one sitting. He talked contently about how he had not drunk such fresh nectar for a long time. It seemed that he delivered it without the slightest delay. With these words, the man said that he liked him, saying that his name was Hephaestus. Ha-jun introduced himself in response, and Hephaestus, mispronouncing his name out loud, said that it was a very interesting name, thanking him for his work. He wanted to say that his name was not that, but Hephaestus interrupted him, saying that he had refreshed himself with nectar, and now it was time to get to work, wishing Ha-jun a good journey. He put his hand on his shoulder and said, wait, after which the man looked back in surprise and looked at Ha-jun. Ha-jun told him, laughing, that he did not pay, deciding that he would not leave here empty-handed. Hephaestus asked in surprise, didn't he pay? He asked him, does he mean payment for his delivery? Hephaestus said that Hajun should have already received this, laughing, and Hajun thought, what does this mean? At that moment, he remembered about the application, looking at the screen, where a very bright light was coming from. He closed his eyes and a window appeared in front of him, where 1,000 points were written. Lying on the sofa and looking at the screen, Hajun thought that this was definitely not a dream. He was once again enveloped by that blinding light, and then he returned to Earth again. So he first thought it was a dream, but this notice did not go away. Hajun looked at the screen and thought, he doesn't even know where to spend these points. Couldn't he really pay with money? He thought in frustration that he was so close to the gods, and this is all he got. Asking if he was asking too much. It doesn't cost him anything to make him the world's strongest as rank hunter. Thinking about this, Hajun suddenly looked at the screen and asked in surprise, huh? He saw a sign that said that glasses could be exchanged for goods in the store, and Hajun asked the store in surprise. Having decided that he needed to buy something, he went into the store and saw the goods there, thinking, what kind of nonsense is this? The goods included a golden apple, an axe, a lead arrow, a golden arrow, and a moped. Hajun thought that he didn't need this. And what kind of moped? The moped was the most expensive, and Hajun couldn't understand why it was so expensive. There was no equipment for hunters here. Even if he got it, he would not survive even a minute in the dungeon. Hajun decided that everything was in vain, and he would never become a hunter. At that moment, he saw something amazing and shouted, what is it? He saw that the points could be converted into their money, and one coin was worth 10,000 local currency. Hajun thought, this is what he is thinking. He touched the screen with his finger, and suddenly a 10,000 bill flew to him. And looking at the screen, he saw that he had 1 less points. Hajun was shocked. He couldn't believe this was happening. And pressing the button again and again, his apartment was filled with money. Then he took the money from the floor and, squeezing it in his hand, said madly, this is what he understands is a reward. He couldn't figure out if he was sleeping.